Guys, sorry for being late. YouTube is being YouTube and won't let me do the thing I need to do. So I apologize. I hope you guys can hear me and see me and whatnot. Because I can't get into my live stream control panel that I set up in the other room yesterday for this live stream. When I come in here, it's like, oh well, let's start up something completely new. So I can't see what you guys are saying. I can't. This fucking platform, man. What a piece of garbage. What absolute trash. Let me try this. YouTube.com. I slash YT live. Cool. So that's okay. We're somewhere, I guess. I apologize, guys. This is the kind of nonsense that I expect from YouTube, and I should have known better than to think it would go any differently. Because I'm in the wrong account. I'm in the wrong account back here. That's the problem. That's the problem. There it is. Okay. Okay, thank you. Now I'm able to see what's going on. I was in the wrong account in the back end. So, hi. I hope everybody's doing really well. I'm trying to get some stuff working over here. We've also got we've got Pep and Collins over on Twitch. Thank you guys for hanging out there. Looks like we've got Trat and Thomas, Optimus Prime. We've got Jan, Collins, Ronaldo. All you guys hanging out over on YouTube. Ronaldo, we're not going to get into previous videos. The best thing you can do if you're looking for help about a specific issue with a service in that particular case is reach out to the developers via their GitHub repository, not when we're trying to do a live stream about a completely different topic. I understand looking for that immediate response, but this isn't a troubleshooting live stream to help people with tech support. I'm not trying to be a dick, I promise. It's been a little stressful for the last 20 minutes. And it's just, we're not doing a troubleshooting live stream here. So, hey, it looks like we've got Alexia over on Twitch as well. Glad to see some more familiar faces. Oh, this is a huge mug. I go through several of these in a day. Jan, thank you so much for donating that gift membership. That's really nice of you. Alexia says, like the new background which you created with the new layout of the room. I did, yeah. Like I spent a couple of weeks with a piece of software trying to figure out how I wanted to lay all of this out. And the biggest impedance that I had during all of that was the black couch that used to be in here, actually on this wall behind me. But it got scrapped. We got rid of it. So yeah, I needed something different in here to create a better flow, to give me a bit of a different setup. It just overall, this is better for my mental health, I think, to have this. It's a nice little cozy corner here. It just gives me a nicer path to go through the room, that sort of thing. So, it's bad when DB does tea through a funnel. Do this, no joke. I spent just real quick. I don't want to harp on this, but like when I was in the hospital in 2016, I drank a lot of tea because I could. I really like tea, especially green tea. Green tea is one of my favorite things to drink. However, I was then told I'm not allowed to have teas like that anymore. I can have black tea, and that's it. That's all I can have anymore because of all of my kidney nonsense. I can only have black tea. So all of my favorite teas got taken away from me, and I was really, really bummed about that. Because again, huge fan of tea. So now we usually keep we usually keep some iced tea or something in the fridge during the summertime, and then when it's colder outside, we drink a lot of hot tea, and I'm a big fan of that. I can throw some honey in there, that sort of thing, and it makes it better. But yeah, I really really miss green tea. It was one of my favorite things to drink. So if you guys are wondering what I'm doing here off camera, I'm trying to get a monitor down here to oh, that's interesting, to work with me, that keeps sliding around and falling down. So I'm hoping that the dumb little thing I did there is going to help. So, okay, let's come back over to here. Thank you, Jan. I appreciate that. Thomas says, so the boy goes in front of you, not behind now. That's pretty much it. Like that was a big part of it. When he was going through, he would see himself pass through on the camera, which was incentive for him to then keep passing through and opening and closing the door and going in and out and in and out and in and out. And being real slow about his journey through. So that was definitely a part. That was definitely a part of my reasoning for wanting to do that. The other part was very much I wanted something different in here. It had been set up like it was for years, and it kind of put me in a weird mental rut as far as that's concerned. And I know that sounds weird, but sometimes something needs to change in order to make things different. And I know that's a dumb thing to say because it's, water is wet, right? Um, but but yeah, sometimes I had to change something. And now that, now that I've been on the new meds for a couple of months and that's going really well, I needed something to signify that with my eyes rather than just in my brain. So that was the plan. I spent a couple of weeks with a little piece of software that I think Collins referred me to, so that I could actually map the dimensions of the room and drop furniture in here and map the dimensions of those and figure out where everything was going to go. And it works. And it worked. Well, the software worked, and then in the course of two different days, over 1 weekend, Saturday and Sunday, because that's the weekend, I completely rearranged everything with exactly 0 downtime, which I was okay. That's not fair. I had about 10 seconds of downtime, maybe no. No, our neighbors had 10 seconds of downtime because I provide internet for them. And I had to rearrange some things, and the cable that goes from here to next door was running through the legs of a shelf instead of behind the legs of a shelf. And the shelf had a bottom that I couldn't disconnect to pull apart. So they lost internet for a couple of seconds, but they weren't home. So it wasn't too much of a big deal. So yeah, that's kind of. I know this is very new for you guys because I haven't put out a ton of content since I've done this. I've had a lot of weird stuff going on, trying to take care of different things. I think the last video was a tutorial, and then one before that was a mini PC, so it was mostly just a top-down shot. You got some of this in the background of part of that video, and then Nighthawk specifically requested this display to go back up. I had something else up there, and he recommended, suggested, requested, whatever, that specific one go up. So I was like, screw it, let's do that. So that one's up there now, and I really like that. The TV here and the rack over here kind of frame me nicely. I'm really happy with how all of this is. And it's going to force me, at least to some degree, to keep things a bit more tidy. Not completely, but a bit more tidy. So, yeah. So, if you guys have been watching me for a while, you know that I don't like NextCloud. I've always been like, I've tried it several times, and it's just been one of those things that I could not work into my workflow. And just some of my experiences with NextCloud have been less than ideal. And look, I'll be honest, some of those issues were me. I'd been using it for a few months, and my server crashed. And because I didn't have backups of my data, I lost everything that was there. And that really put a sour taste in my mouth. But but I could never really get it to just, I couldn't make it be part of my workflow. So between the animosity of my mistake and my inability to work it into my workflow, I've just had this negative thing about it. So I was thinking about it yesterday and was like, okay, obviously we got to have a live stream this weekend, because that's what we do. Like, we try to do a live stream every weekend. And I couldn't think of anything. And I was like, let's torture myself a little bit. And maybe this will give me the incentive I need to be more proactive about coming up with live stream ideas. So I hope it does that. I don't really want to keep falling into bad habits, but um, too kind moves on to something else. I think everyone tries NextCloud and then moves on to something else. Yeah. Colin says he gave it a solid month-long trial recently. He liked the idea, but I couldn't shoehorn it into my workflow. Yeah, that's very much the case for me. And look, I know that NextCloud has a huge following, and rightfully so, for the right people. But I want to give it another look, partially because I want to see if the install process is any better or different or whatever, right? But because I've never actually installed via the AIO system, so I'm going to try that for the first time today, live with you guys. So if you guys have got experience with that, please feel free to tell me all of the things that I am doing wrong, because there will be a few. And then like, I've already got a domain set up and pointed to this with an SSL on the whole bit. I prepped on that a little bit. I have also got a virtual machine set up with Docker and all of that stuff running already. Really clear. CLS, there we go. NextCloud is trash. The developers are busy ham-facing AI features while stability and usability of the software decrease. I don't have a response to that, because I haven't touched it in a really long time. So I believe you, because I've always felt something similar. 7.58. But again, I haven't checked it out in a really long time. So we're going to 2.168.7.58. Should be fine. No, it's not. I fat fingered that. I know you can't see my screen. I'll switch that in a minute. Their AI function is really hard to set up correctly. Use cfile if you want sharing. Use image if you, yeah. Can you elaborate on the workflow challenge? So I've had my phone and my wife's phone backing up to Synology for a couple of years now. So switching where I back up my phones kind of takes away the photo aspect of it. Notes, I've used several different note-taking applications over the years. I'm currently just kind of using Dumppad for a lot of my note-taking stuff, because it's easy to use. It's very simple. There were just a lot of different things that NextCloud did fine. Like, it wasn't great, it wasn't bad, it was fine. And I've said repeatedly for a long time, like, I would rather have a couple of apps that do each thing very well than one app that does a couple of things kind of well. And I understand that NextCloud lets you, like, point, function A with component B, and then subcomponent C can do the work of A, B, and C all simultaneously. I understand that it can all work together in some harmonious, balanced thing. I've never found a use for any of that. It's never been something that I've been looking for. Whether it's contacts, I've got my contacts in my phone, and that still backs up to Google. Maybe I should do better about that. But the idea, one of the things that I've been trying to do, besides just not relying on third-party solutions like Google, like Netflix, like whatever, is to not put all of my eggs in one basket. And NextCloud, to me, is very much all my eggs in one basket. My contacts, my notes, my pictures, my everything goes into one place. And for a lot of people, that's utopia. For me, that is terrifying because as I experienced before, partially due to my own mistake of not having a backup, I lost one service and lost all my eggs. And that's the big thing for me is not putting everything in one spot for that exact reason. So that all being said, it's a very popular piece of software. Yep, you're absolutely right, Collins. Jay says NextCloud setting that literally everyone changes, but they stubbornly refuse to make default, like max file size. Right? Yeah, yeah. You got to go in and change like a PHP.ini file or a config.ini file to change it from like it's like 16 megs or maybe it's 256 megs. I don't remember, but you got to make it like a couple of gigs if you're backing up your phone. Because if you're recording videos in even if it's 1080p, if you got a 10-minute video, it'll immediately exceed the file size limitations of NextCloud out of the gate. Also the 6 months. If not NextCloud, then what? I've spread all of my stuff across multiple different platforms so that if I lose Dumbpad, I don't lose my contacts. If I lose, whatever, I don't lose everything else. So I put my contacts in one spot and I put my notes in another spot and I put my photos in another spot so that it's all kind of spread out so that if one thing goes down, I don't lose everything. And it's very much like I've talked about in the past with, all of my different services, more or less, have their own LXC, right? Like I know it's more practical to have, like in Proxmox, to have a virtual machine or whatever, just have all of your services in one virtual machine or one Docker instance. But if there's been this fly in here that will not go away, that just keeps circling. Anyway, it's so anyway, I've spread everything out so that if one thing goes wrong, I can fix that one thing without affecting all of my other things. It's the same approach that I take to all of my services getting their same or different LXC is kind of what I was getting at there. I do have ZFS, but I don't. Look, my solution works for me. I've made videos about it. I understand that everybody has a different approach to this, and I respect that. But I need very simple ways to make sure that nothing goes wrong. I don't want to have to dig through a bunch of code. I don't want to dig deep into the file system. I don't want to do all of that. I want to have an LXC with a service on it that gets backed up every night to a different device. And if something goes wrong, I can go to that Proxmox backup server that's running in a VM on a different device, and I can restore that because I know that that is backed up somewhere else. So anyway, so now we're going to take a look. We're going to take another look at NextCloud, just so that I can give it another go and see what's changed. And again, the other part of it, sorry, had a hair right there. The other part of it is it's entirely possible that part of my animosity or whatever towards it had something to do with my ADHD, which I know seems like a silly thing to say, except that oh, you're going to be like that. Outstanding. Interesting. Except that prior to being on meds for the last couple of months, things would easily overwhelm me. And as a result of that, I would get frustrated and I would get angry and things wouldn't go well. But I've been on the new meds for a couple of months. I've been doing more stuff to help my mental health and my physical health, that sort of thing. So I figured this is also a good test to see how things are going, to see if that has changed anything. So I'm just kind of getting some other stuff moved around over here so that we can take a look at some things. So let's do that, and let's go to my desktop. All right, there we go. look at, try it. So feeling maybe surprised. NextCloud won't help, right? I love my NextCloud, and dude, so many people love NextCloud. I mean, they've got a huge following, and again, I think for the right workflows for the right people, NextCloud is probably a great service. And look, I'm willing to accept that it's entirely possible that based on this live stream, my perception of NextCloud may change. I am totally open to the idea of that being a possibility, right? I'm not saying no to NextCloud. I'm saying we're going to give NextCloud another look, and we're going to see what happens. And I was just scrolling through there so you could be familiar with NextCloud. And I've got some other links we'll take a quick look at here. We've got this one, which is their NextCloud AIO, the all-in-one. And this kind of runs you through everything here. I was reading through their documentation on this morning. Like this was updated. It's been updated recently. But like when you come over to here, which is the blog post from February 9th, 2023. It's not well written. It's just not. Right, like there are expectations in this blog post that you don't find out about until later. Oh, the kid is on one lately. Like when you get down here a little bit, there's a whole spot about like now you can access it through the domain that you set up earlier prior to this tutorial. Cool. That was halfway through the tutorial, right? They don't have a prerequisites up here of like you need to do A, B, and C before you get into here, right? It's just like here's NextCloud all in one. And then eventually it's like, oh, make sure that you've got all of these other things already set up and ready to go. And so it's really poorly written. Like it's written for somebody who's already very, very, very familiar with NextCloud. It is not written for somebody who is trying to get into NextCloud, who wants to try NextCloud. This is very much like you already know how NextCloud works. So here's some words on a page so that we can rank in our SEO. And that's super frustrating. And I say that as somebody who has very much created content like that, right? Like this isn't me, throwing stones here because like I live in a glass house too. This is very much me saying like from my own experience, I have made this mistake. I have very often in the past created content with the expectation that the person watching or reading my content already had a foundational understanding of what we were getting into. It's part of the reason that I've started adding disclaimers to my videos. This tutorial is going to rely on Docker. This tutorial is not going to teach you Docker. There are other videos that can teach you Docker or other resources that can teach you Docker. And once you're familiar with those things, then come back and check out this video. I've started adding those disclaimers because I used to create content like this, but in video form, and I'm trying to do better. And I sincerely hope that Michaela Schneider is also trying to do better in the 2.5 years since this blog post came out. I'm not trying to attack. This is a mistake that I have made as well. Let's see. Just trying to read over some stuff here. All right, let me take a look over here. Savag, thank you so much for hanging out over there on Twitch. I appreciate you being there, hanging out with us. So this is the tutorial that we're going to follow, right? Because I feel like this is what they recommend you follow from their GitHub repository, right? I clicked this link right here. Like this is the tutorial that they're recommending that people follow. So this is what we're going to do. Tech Hut has a quote in here. That's cool. Guide for AIO Linux. I think that's the version of Linux that I have installed. I don't remember. It's Ubuntu that I've got installed there. I've already installed Docker and Docker Compose. I've got Portainer in here as well, just because So now we're going to open the terminal and start AIO with this command. So we're going to do a Docker run command. We've got a SIG proxy. I'm not familiar with that. Equals false. The name of the container will be NextCloud AIO master container. Restart policy if always. We're going to publish ports 80, 8080, and 8443. If I remember right, 8080 is going to be the port that we're going to go to for our AIO master dashboard. And then 80 and 8443 are going to be for traffic, not traffic, the reverse proxy, but like actual traffic going to and from this NextCloud AIO install here. We got a couple of volumes. One, we're going to use a Docker volume for the AIO master container. That's what we're going to have there. And then, of course, that's mounted internally in that container. And we've also got our Docker socket that lets it communicate directly with Docker. I'm not entirely sure why that's there, probably so that it can spin up the other instances that are necessary for what we're doing here. Alexi says, I was in the same pain last week when deploying Endurain. When I was connecting my Strava account to Endurain, I had to find out through ChatGPT how to set it up. Yeah. I think AI right now is kind of a blessing and a curse. All right. Let's see here. Below that, it says, note, you may be interested in adjusting. Let me zoom in on this a little bit. I know that's probably hard for some people to read, depending on the size of their screen. I apologize for that. Let's see. Craig says, my latest install is turnkey NextCloud LXC. Works great, zero downtime. I thought about possibly going that route, but this isn't about, and this is going to sound silly, I'm not doing this for the simplicity of it, right? I'm doing this because this is what they're telling people to do, right? And it's unfortunate that a lot of these services only work correctly or better or easier when third parties get involved to figure out all of the bugs and then repackage it differently. It's unfortunate that the upstream, in this case NextCloud, doesn't then take a hint from those other contributors and be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for doing the heavy lifting. Let's make you a contributor on this project and roll out the things that you've done to make everybody's lives easier. I don't know why they don't, but whatever. ABD says, hello there. I did set up AIO yesterday night on Docker. That's what we're doing here too. B-Book DK gifted a tier 1 sub to Pep. Thank you so much. That was really, really nice of you. I appreciate that. The thing I want to look at here says, note, you may be interested in adjusting NextCloud's data directory, which should be this one, to store the files at a different location than the default Docker volume. See this documentation on how to do it. Yeah, that's fine. That's what I figured they were going to suggest. We'll touch on that here briefly in a second. And then once that has done its thing, then you can go to your server's IP address on port 8080 to make things go. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab this, and then I'm going to find, interesting, I don't know where I put that tab. I want to find Dumpad. Oh, it's over there. Neat. Yeah, I use Dumpad for everything. So here's this, right? This is the Docker run command that they've given us. Let me zoom in on that a little bit so you can see kind of what's going on there a little easier. And what they recommend doing if you don't want to use a Docker volume here, right? Which I don't think I do. I want to see what's going on in there. And I know that you can do that with a Docker volume, but I like to manually map where this is going to go. So what I'm going to do is home Docker NextCloud. So we're going to map this volume to this location on the server rather than using a Docker volume. Again, it's a preferential thing. You don't have to do this. If you just wanted to If you just wanted to do this, that would be perfectly acceptable as well, based on their documentation. Add an Apache port to HD, yeah, and checking how the meds work, dude. We're gonna find out how the meds are working. So, and that was another thing. MZABD said add Apache port 2, right? So we've got 80 and 8080 and 8443 or 8443, whatever, right? And then you scroll down and it's like, hey, because of this, make sure you access this dashboard on the IP address and not on a domain name because of this issue, right? And you scroll down and it's like, here, you're going to see this. And then we've got this. And I've already mapped a domain to this port. And then you should see this. And then all of a sudden, here's some extra ports we didn't talk about at any point prior to step 7. Maybe this is only for DDNS, but it doesn't explicitly state anything about those ports until right now. And that's frustrating. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to open this up. Here is this is a terminal window into the virtual machine that we're going to install NextCloud on. I've already logged in with my account. I've already added my user to the Docker group, so in theory, I should be able to just grab this because we're doing a Docker command. I'm actually going to take off this sudo there, like so, and then we're going to paste that in, and there we go. So we're going to let this run. We're just going to let this run and do its thing. Again, we're just following the tutorial, the AIO tutorial. Seems like you didn't give your master container the correct volume name. See, and now, use a different name is not supported since the built-in backup solution will not work in that case. But right up here, right, we saw this, right? It said you may be interested in doing this. Outstanding. So this is, if you're going to give us that option, don't make us click somewhere else to find more details on that. Put all of the information in there. Directly in the tutorial, like that's, so we'll run it this way. Docker stop rm Docker ps. Okay, we just have Portainer running now. So let's try that again. Okay. Oh, you suck. Oh, you suck so hard. We're gonna do this. We're gonna cancel out of this. There we go. Because because the Docker command doesn't have a -d in there. Oops, which means that it's required to keep the terminal window open if we want to keep the command or the container running. So I've added this -d right there. Let's see if this is, I thought that was going to happen. Docker stop. We're going to do this one more time. Yeah, it's Phoenix says, could that be that NextCloud removed that and didn't update the tutorial? It's 100% possible. I've run into a lot of issues recently with doing some other hardware testing for another company that I'm kind of working with right now. Where they're like, here, just follow these instructions, and you can't because their documentation isn't up to date based on the software that runs on their hardware. They've got an older version because the software that you're connecting to with their hardware just recently had a big update and a kernel update change, and that has there's anyway. Let's try this one more time. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the IP address. Like this deployed appropriately. It's fine. Yeah, right there shows us that everything deployed appropriately. So what we're going to do now is we're going to grab this IP address. We're going to go over to here on port 8080 and HTTPS. Oops. And advanced and proceed. All right. So I need to save this, and I know this is nitpicky. It really is. I understand that. It says next you can go to this. Your local host or the server IP address on port 8080. Always use the IP address if you access this port and not a domain name, as HSTS might block access to it later. Perfectly understandable. I get it. Cool. You do need to accept the self-signed certificate. Afterwards, you should see this. I did that, right? And then we saw this. Alternatively, if port 80 or 8443 should be open in your firewall or domain, whatever, right? So we go from step 4, which is go here, to step 5, enter the passphrase from before. It doesn't say, and I know this is nitpicky, you should copy that. You're going to need it next. There's nothing in there that says anything about saving this password because we don't know what we're using it for. I know it's nitpicky. I know it should be obvious. But when we're dealing with when we're teaching people something new, you really have to spell out every last little detail, especially when this is an official tutorial from the manufacturer, if you wanted to call it that, right? It's nitpicky, but that's my point, right? I'm going to save that there for later. And I know it says it here, but in the tutorial, it should also be there. It's noted on this page, but it's not noted in the tutorial. I'm deliberately being nitpicky here because if you're going to start throwing random things in later, why are you not putting the obvious stuff in at the appropriate points, right? So we're going to open this. We're going to put in that passphrase. I don't know why this is even a thing. Whatever. It just seems like an unnecessary step, if I'm being honest. All right. So we're on NextCloud AIO v11.4.0, the official NextCloud installation method. NextCloud AIO provides an easy deployment maintenance with most features included in this one NextCloud instance. You can either create a new AIO instance or restore a former one. See the 2 sections below. Click here to view the current AIO configuration. Cool. AIO is currently in normal mode, which means that it handles the TLS proxying itself. It also means that it cannot be installed behind a web server or reverse proxy. If you want to run behind this, if you want to run AIO behind a web server or reverse proxy like any of these, see the reverse proxy documentation. Advice, have a look at the change Docker run command for AIO. Outstanding. Oops. Well, I don't want to do that. We're just, you know what? We're just going to run with it, man, because it seems like they're deliberately making this. There's no need to do it this way, right? Don't use community containers or check which works, etc. All right, so somewhere over here in my notes, if I can remember, I've got so many tabs and windows and whatnot open over here. Let me bring this down to here. We're going to try something. So I've got, okay, we've got this. That's the domain that we're going to use for this setup. So this is, we're going to click submit. So it's deliberately looking for port 443. That's why. Why force a completely different setup here? Like, why make this more difficult than it already tends to be? Here's an example with all reverse proxy settings. So then we've got this other option here. You need to add a specific config into your web server's reverse proxy. Specify that AIO's integrated Apache container shall use. Yeah. Manish says, remember, folks, this is the easy setup. Yeah. Apache port. Yeah, I don't. NextCloud is the fork of OwnCloud. Yeah, yeah. So I don't know what this Apache port 11,000 is. They don't explain that. NextCloud is the most reason. Open Apache imports to reverse proxy to a. So instead of pointing to port 8080, I point to 11,000. That doesn't make sense. That's what a. All right, fine. We'll try that. They're okay. Let's do that, right? So let's clear my screen. So we're going to come back up. We're going to find. We're going to stop that, right? Give this a second, and then we're going to do. Then we're going to remove that. Now this should be gone. Yep, not loading. Outstanding. That's what we want. So then I've got my little notepad down here. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to copy that, right? And then we're going to come back to here. So clear my screen. This is now what they say that I need to do. Sig proxy equals false. We've got this. We're going to publish port 8080, Apache port 11,000 by network. Great. Skip domain validation. I mean, I would feel like that should be true. Explanation of the command. Okay, fine. This allows the container to shell. It gets attached, right? That's that. Fine, publish. Okay, Apache. This is the port that's published on the host that runs Docker and NextCloud AIO, which the reverse proxy should point at. So we're going to point to port 11,000 instead of the others. Okay. I don't understand why they didn't just do this. It's such bad practice to tell people to just, we'll just open port 80 and 443 on your network to point to a specific app. Right? There's no firewall. There's nothing in between the internet and your application at that point to add any kind of protection to your setup. If you're just publishing those ports directly to an app, that seems like really bad practice to me. Like that seems like you're just asking people to compromise their networks. It doesn't make sense that this is standard practice for a service that is this popular. It genuinely blows my mind. So this is why we're here. Do you see what I do for you guys? I do this to myself for your guys' entertainment. So 8080 is still going to be our configuration dashboard port. 11,000 is going to be the port that we're going to use to access NextCloud on our domain. Okay. All right. Okay. This time, it didn't ask for boot wrong note. I'll do this. We're going to grab this. Submit. Okay. Then what that tells me is that I need to go and change my reverse proxy to point to port. Then I need to change my reverse proxy to point to port 11,000. Oh, I know you guys can't see what I'm doing. That's on purpose. I'm logging into my reverse proxy, and I don't want you guys to see that. Nothing personal. It's just this is live and on the internet. I don't want to share that. Oops. Right. Okay. So I'm going to come over to my resources, and I'm going to find this, and I'm going to edit that. And we're going to point this to port. Oops. Damn it. To port 11,000 and click save. Maybe we need to give it a second. Let's page not found. I pointed this to port 11,000. We're on the right IP address. Let's do IPA, right? Let me make sure we're still on 7.58. That's what I have down here. Oh, maybe it's this. Maybe I need to set it to HTTP. That could be a thing. I acknowledge that. Oh. Raise a valid point. We'll do that. Submit. Domain does not point to the server or the proxy correctly. See the master container logs. Let's just run this. Let's clear my screen. Yeah, I sure did that. Now it wants port 443. Okay. It's right, like, okay. Let's attempt to access this. What is there? 404 not found. The page, okay. So I don't know why it's trying to access port 443. Oops, I didn't mean to bump the mic there. Because it told me to point to port 11,000. So I change this setting. I'm changing it to port 443 in my reverse proxy. Copy that. Oops. Nope. Refresh. Yep. Oops. So this still wants me to open port 443 on my network to point to this container. That's what I'm seeing there, because it's asking, it's finding this in theory. But it can't access port 443 because I don't have port 443 open on my network on purpose, because and I'm not going to open port 443 on my network to point to this. So let's change this back to that and click save. No, open for Apache reverse proxy localhost to make sure. Okay, we'll try that, right? So we're going to grab this. Continue. Cool. There's some numbers. My reverse proxy is a WireGuard tunnel. So there's nothing open on my network. Like, all of my ports are closed because I use a WireGuard tunnel from a VPS to point to an agent on my network, because I don't want ports open on my network because of the security implications of that. So make sure the server is reachable on port 443. Port 443 is open or forwarded on your firewall/router for TCP and UDP, as well if you want to enable HTTP3. So they don't reverse proxy. This is the port that's published on the host and runs the Docker and the NextCloud reverse proxy should point at. So it's saying port 11,000 is what my reverse proxy should point at. And when I do that, it doesn't like that either. Simply add another reverse proxy to the chain that runs the same server like AIO to take care of HTTPS proxying. So if you want HTTPS, you have to add another reverse proxy. Like, configure the reverse proxy, point 1. Okay. Replace NC with the domain on which you want to run. Okay, let's take a look at this, right? Maybe I screwed something up in my notes, right? Let's take a look. Let's go to the right command here. Well, domain, adjust this, adjust localhost, right? No. Same machine, right? Yeah, it's saying point to HTTP localhost 11,000. Well, I'm not using localhost. So I guess what we're going to do, this is saying skip domain validation equals true, right? So we're going to exit out of this. We're going to stop. And then we're going to remove, clear my screen. We're going to do this, right? Okay. So this time we're going to try it with the domain validation, or skip domain validation set to true instead of false. Give this a second to come back up. I'm not on a Cloudflare tunnel. I am on a completely different setup. Okay. So then we're going to grab this and we're going to paste this into here. Okay. So I told it to skip domain validation. Thomas, you're definitely not the only one who thinks that. Direct connection. Darkian, I'm very much in the same train of thought as you are on that. Am I understanding it right? The NextCloud AIO wants a direct connection through 443 from the internet and is not working through the reverse proxy from. That's how I'm understanding it. That's why I've been manipulating this Docker run command a little bit. So here we are, right? So some of the additional information that was in this tutorial down here with regards to some of these additional ports that were mentioned here, they don't explain why you should have this port open. Thankfully, this does. This is if you want to use NextCloud Talk. But again, this is opening a port from the internet to your container. And I feel like that's a really bad idea. Anyway, ClamAV, antivirus background for NextCloud needs 1 additional gigabyte of RAM. Sure. A Collabora, or however you want to say that. Sure, why not? Full text search needs an additional gig of RAM. Sure, why not? Imaginary for previews of all of these different types of files. Yeah, I may have a bunch of different stuff in there. I'm not going to use NextCloud Talk because I'm not going to open that stuff up. Only Office, Docker. Fine, we're gonna. Yeah, I understand that. It's in a VM. It's fine. Okay. So we're going to say save. Oh, so we can only do either Collabora or whatever, or only Office. I guess we'll do that one. We'll do that. Okay. Okay, America, Denver, time zone change. Fine. Community containers. There's a bunch of them in here that we could add to this. That's interesting. And again, this is another one of those things of trying to be absolutely everything to everybody all of the time in one thing. Adding Vault Warden, adding Plex, adding Pi-hole, puts all of these services in a single point of failure. Again, this is me and my tinfoil hat or whatever, right? But this is too many things in one location. If your entire infrastructure depends on this app running and not failing, I don't like that. That's too much for me. I'm not adding any of this stuff because of that. So we're just going to go with some basics. We're going to add antivirus. We're going to have NextCloud Office. We're going to do text search because sometimes it's nice to be able to search for things. We're going to have imaginary so that we can look at different file types, Illustrator, PDF, SVG, that sort of stuff. The Docker socket proxy, I don't know, maybe. And then whiteboard. Sometimes whiteboards are nice to have. Board backup is good, says True Passion. I believe you. But so is the Proxmox backup server I have configured on this piece of hardware. So I'm just going to go with that for right now. We're just going to go with this, right? So we're going to say download and start containers. So it's going to do this, and I have to wonder if it's just going to spin this entire time and never tell us what it's actually doing. That's another big complaint I have about software. That's just like, I'm doing something, you don't know what, but I'm doing something. You don't know where I'm in my process, but I'm doing something. And what I really mean by I'm doing something is you think I'm doing something, you hope I'm doing something. I have no way to know what's going on. Yeah. It will show a log link after 1 minute. Cool. I hate that it gives me nothing while it's going through this process. I'm glad that it will eventually change. But I didn't see, honestly, I didn't read as much as I probably should have anywhere where I didn't see where it told me that would happen. It says that it can take 5 to 10 minutes and please be patient. Yeah. And Thomas W says, and you don't know what's failing, right? Or passing. Yep. What's our option if we don't want to use the talk related ports, but also want to use talk? That's I don't know. Look, I don't have a lot of recent experience with NextCloud because of nonsense like this. Again, this was supposed to be the easy install method. But like the default install method requires a bunch of opening ports directly from the internet to this container. If you want to use a reverse proxy, like you should, for things like this, that's a completely different install method, which I know is a bit of an overstatement. It requires adding some additional stuff and changing a couple of things in that Docker run command. But I feel like that should be the default. Like if you're just opening ports and pointing to this, I hope you get hacked, right? Like that seems like the worst possible thing you could do of just open a port with no protection between the application and the internet. That's just dumb, in my opinion. Darken15 says that made me remember games like The Sims that have random messages not related to what's running during the loading. Right, exactly. And look, those were fun, right? Those were amusing. They at least entertained you enough to not worry about it. When this is like, hey, this could take 10 minutes, but we're not going to give you any information, that doesn't give me warm fuzzies. It genuinely doesn't give me warm fuzzies when it's just like, nah. Proxy and NC not entered. Can I ask about Netbox? I don't know what Netbox is. Never heard of it. Can't help you. Sorry. I have no idea what that is. Docker log, maybe. Yeah, maybe we could try that. Yep, just ready to handle incoming connections. That's great. That was from 7 minutes ago. Akshay says hi. How's it going? Super Attempt says, I'm curious, what's your unique setup between VPS VPN and your Proxmox machine? I'm no longer using Cloudflare tunnels. I've made some posts about it in the past. Beyond that, I don't really want to just tell you what my infrastructure is with regards to remote accessing my home lab. I think that's probably not a great security practice. Thomas says, I have strong reservations on the software that allows direct connection. It doesn't allow basic protection software. Like firewalls and port forwarding allows these to do what they're designed for. Yeah. The logs are telling us nothing. This has been running for, I wonder if I can look at timestamps. It will show. So it's been 3 minutes since we started seeing this screen, and none of it has changed. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. It's just F5. I'm getting a couple of people saying F5. Here's what I'm gonna do. Oops. So here, let me close this. I don't want the confusion there. Okay, this is the same URL, and it's just spinning over there as well. That's a good point. Sven, thank you so much for donating 5 memberships. I really appreciate you. That was really, really nice of you. Docker, let me clear my screen here. Let me zoom in a little. Oh, cannot open multiple instances. Interesting. Okay. Now, so about 4 minutes. Containers are currently starting. You might inspect the container logs by clicking on starting. Okay, so it's doing something. It was about 5 minutes. It was about 5 minutes. Sorry, I've got a scar here that itches today. That's just because I keep doing this, and I know it's weird. So about 5 minutes, and it's starting. So we'll give it a minute. All right, Pep, no worries. Thanks for hanging out, man. Appreciate you being here. Oops, can't do that. All right. Oh, right. The only thing Cloudflare use is the DNS updater Docker container because of IPs updating. Yeah, that's fair. Dude, Collins, thank you. Like, you guys rock. Thank you guys so much for your support. That's really nice of all of you. I appreciate you. So I click reload. It's sure thinking about stuff. Starting. Waiting for NextCloud to start. Okay, NextCloud's starting. Waiting 10 seconds before activating. Notify push starting. It's doing a lot of starting. That's fine. This is all fine. This is all basically the same as before. And it's refreshing periodically, which I guess is a good thing. You have to wait for them all to turn green. It could take a bit. Yeah. Look, it's been 5 minutes. It said it could take 5 to 10. So luckily you guys are here to keep me company, which I super appreciate. Okay, we're like that was the next thing. So now we're waiting on Notify and Apache. Those are both starting. That was started. Okay. So if I click reload, all right. Hey, look, my initial password is right there. Outstanding. Outstanding. Let me take a look. This very much could be my reverse proxy setup here. Right. I'm sorry I missed the change in the office. Yeah, it was a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't put out a lot of content since then. I needed something different. Dr. PS. Ooh, let's take a look here. Okay, so it says it should be on port 11,000. We agree on all of that. That's where that should be, is on port 11,000. Right. IPA, which is still, geez, 7.58. Save all settings. Authentication. Let's try this, I guess. Neat. Also check AIO interface 8080. Yeah. I mean, that's where we are there. If your NextCloud does not open when clicking, see this documentation. Well, then, clear my screen. PHP message. Not found. Outstanding. That's on port 11,000. Not found. So neat. Yeah, so NextCloud's off the list for the new channel. Probably for a while, yeah. Investigate, Docker logs, we did that. Yeah. Too many client certificates already issued from yourdomain.com. No, that wasn't it. Oh, that's helpful. All kinds of comments have been hidden. Why are all of these hidden? That doesn't. It's not Cloudflare Tunnel. I just said that. I just said I'm not using Cloudflare tunnels. .404 not found. Okay. I guess then what I'm going to do, because this doesn't make sense to me. Let's close out of that. Let's clear my screen. Ping. Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's magical. Is that right? Did I hold on? Maybe I've screwed something up here. No, I didn't. That's fine. That's great. Okay, so now we're getting that anyway. That's correct. Maybe it was a DNS issue. No. Let's try a different browser. 404 not found and not secure. Okay, well, then I guess the only other thing that makes sense in this case is to rebuild the domain stuff on this end. Let me take a look at some stuff over here. We're not doing that. We're allow all, that's fine. General, this is correct. Transfer the resource, I don't want to do that. Proxy on that port, enabled. So that IP address we agree on. I think I'll wait. Yeah, I don't blame you at all here. So let me make sure I've got my notes over here, just so I can hopefully make this a bit easier on myself here in a minute. All right. So I'm changing some stuff in my reverse proxy here, right? I'm going to delete this instance of NextCloud out of hold on. Maybe the issue is me. Hey, look, the issue is me. I'm stupid. I don't have any other words for that. I had actually disabled the thing there because I was stupid. That's all I can really say there. For right now, though, I'm going to do this. That's fine. I'm going to save users and roles. This way, I should be able to access it, and you shouldn't. Sorry. Log in. Is this one of those cases where I now have to create an account for the first time? Right. Now you can finally open and log in with the given admin credentials. Oh, okay. Copy. Right. Okay. Admin. Oops. Geez. Password. That was dumb. But my fault. Okay, we're going to close this. All right. Yeah, no, I had actually disabled that domain in my reverse proxy because because I don't have any other words for it than that. Okay. So I mean, that's good. That played pretty well. PDF is loading. Yeah, one checkbox to drive you crazy. Yeah, we all have our stupid or I'm so stupid moments. Agreed. Not stupid. You were juggling a lot of balls. I appreciate the vote of confidence there. Good luck with the meds, by the way. Finding the right ones is an odyssey and not a fun one. I've actually been pretty fortunate in the ones that my psych suggested. Kind of out of the box worked really well in conjunction with something else. First question. Just one question. Since you say that exposing ports in the internal network is risky, how do you secure the pangolin setup running a VPS service since the home network can be accessed via that as well? I've got certain restrictions set up in my pangolin firewall. I'm not saying that it's perfect, and there I gave away what I'm using, so there's that for you. I've got certain things set up in that firewall to mitigate certain things. I've got certain configurations in there to help auto mitigate certain things. I've disabled direct access to certain things. I've done the things that I'm comfortable doing at this time. I have disabled root access to the server. I have changed the SSH port to that server. I have made it so that you can only access that server via SSH keys that are on only certain devices in my network. I've taken certain steps to do those things. I've got two-factor authentication enabled on my reverse proxy that's only accessible from one device that I have on me at all times. Again, it's not a perfect solution. Nothing ever is. If somebody wants in badly enough, they can do that. I hope they don't. I hope people are nice enough to not do that. But I've taken a lot of steps to make sure that that I've done everything that I'm comfortable with to make sure that everything is working appropriately. Like the server gets regular updates. I've taken security I've implemented certain security things to help. Nothing is impenetrable. There are no ports open on my network. I use a WireGuard tunnel to go from one server to another to access the hardware here. It's a risk that you run anytime that you have things open. But just opening random ports or even unrandom ports on your direct modem and router and all of that sort of stuff has more security implications than taking the steps that I've done with securing my remote server, with implementing the setup that I have. Just opening ports on your network and pointing to a container with no reverse proxy, no firewall, no nothing isn't a great idea. And their documentation says just open ports 80 and 443 and point them directly to this container. And that's not great. I don't, Gaston says, there will be a clean video tutorial of this in the future, question mark. Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. I don't. Maybe. That's all I can say at this point. Silver King says unify with Pi-hole. I mean, I have Unify. I don't use Pi-hole though. I use AdGuard Home, but that's for ad blocking and that sort of thing. Colin says define clean. That's right. Absolutely define clean. Um, I 100% plus one on the tutorial. Maybe I don't know, guys. Here's what I will say. Right, like looking at this version of NextCloud is much nicer to look at um, than previous instances that I've looked at. I will say that. There's also one other thing that I want to look at here, just real quick. Yeah, see, that's going to require you to log in with the security keys. So I just wanted to make sure that that was the case. So clean, if it works, it works. I mean, look, you're not necessarily wrong in that. Um, but the tutorial that they gave for their official tutorial, I think a lot of things for NextCloud have changed in the last couple of years since it was released, and they haven't updated the tutorial in any kind of a way that makes this easier. I do want to do security. Yeah, current password, new password. Minimize that. Drag this out of the way. Oops, what was that? Was weird. Did I? I did. Okay. Cool. We're going to save that. And then for the sake of whatever, I'm going to do this. I know you guys can't see. That's by design. Oh, Sven, sorry, I just got a notification. Thank you for your donation. That was really nice of you. Totally unnecessary, but very much appreciated. Thank you for that PayPal donation. Let me do this. I'm going to cancel that. Cancel. I'm going to do this. I'm going to scan this. Sorry, I'm adding another layer of security here to this. And verify. All right. Cool. I just adding two-factor authentication to this just for the sake of it. Now I've got like multiple levels of authentication here that you would have to get through. All right, so here's this. Let's bring this back up to there. All of this is fine. This password no longer exists. Backup and restore. That's fine. The one thing I do want to look at here, though, is it this? Yeah, it's this. I want to look at this. I want to look at the summary on that. Cool. We are we are almost maxing out that that RAM. It did say that like 5 gigs for the full install. So using 3.5 with some overhead doesn't really surprise me. It's whatever. This is fine. Let's refresh this. See what this tells us. Love that it keeps that there. That seems like a bad idea. Like it should be one of those things of like there should be a thing here like, hey, I've looked at this, I've clicked this, I've changed my password. I feel like you should be able to like say, hey, don't show this anymore. Darken15 says, I'm going to wait for you to go further into the installation process, but so far, I think I prefer the normal NextCloud container where I can have other containers managed by myself and not use AIO. I kind of agree with that. What kind of applications you use to store your files and images? I'm currently using Image for images and File Browser for files, but I don't know if NextCloud will be any better in those respects. I don't know that it will either. So we talked about this a little bit earlier, and it's fine if you didn't catch it. It's fine. So basically, is it that one? Yeah, it is. Is it that one? No. There's a Synology device right here. That's where all of my files go. for images, for files, for all of that. Some Docker containers all run on that device for my file management. And then below that, you can kind of see right there is my HL15. That's where we're installing this. That's where this is installed presently. And then I've got two more NASs up here. One of them backs up my backups off of my other Synology device, and the other one backs up certain other files with regards to Proxmox and that sort of thing. So I've got even my backups are spread across multiple devices because I'm paranoid. I just did the same thing and installed AIO and immediately uninstalled for standalone. I feel like I should just give it up entirely for C file and image. And that's kind of where we ended up, or how I ended up here, where I currently am. Because very early on, before I had all this nonsense behind me, look, I understand. I'm very privileged to have what I have behind me. I understand that. I'm not trying to be obtuse or rude or whatever, right? But before I had all of this, I had a computer. In fact, it's still over there that I had Open Media Vault 5 installed on, with a couple of hard drives and nothing else, right? Like it was a very basic Open Media Vault 5 solution, and no backups, right? And that's what I had NextCloud installed on. And when it failed, it failed catastrophically. It wasn't NextCloud that failed, right? I will give it that. It wasn't NextCloud that failed. It was Open Media Vault that failed because of an update or something. I don't remember. It's been a long time. But as a result of that, because I didn't have any backups of Open Media Vault, I lost everything, and that wrecked me. And it's why I switched to Proxmox even before I had the HL15. I don't have I do have the device. I had for months this trig key. It doesn't say what it is. Oh yeah, it does. This trig key S5 was my home lab, right? Like it ran everything in my home lab for several months. And then I got lucky and got the Zima boards, or Zima board. So was it the Zima board? Whatever the first one was, I got 3 of those and set up a Proxmox high availability cluster, and then I started running a Proxmox backup server on my Synology, and then I had an infrastructure that worked. It had redundancy, it had high availability, it had backups, it had everything I needed. And I've been using Proxmox since then to handle everything because of all of the built-in functionality with it. And again, I understand that makes me a bit of a hypocrite because I've got everything dropped into one thing, all of my eggs in one basket with regards to that. So I'm not above admitting my hypocrisy when it's there. But Thomas W says 321 plus. Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever happened to have an SSD fail? Yeah, I in fact, it was in my HL15. I had a couple of SSDs running in like a ZFS 1 or whatever that I had set up. I had set these drives up specifically for Plex. But because Plex is constantly logging so many things, it overran them and destroyed those SSDs. They were meant to be consumer hard drives that just get used in a regular operating system configuration. They were not ready for what I threw at them, and it screwed some things up. It overwrote a bunch of stuff. It bottlenecked constantly. It made Plex unusable. So my Plex server is running on spinning Rust right now, and it has been for a while, and it's been beautiful. So I've absolutely had SSDs fail on me. Sorry, I'm looking over here in my monitor. Almost everything in my home lab is spinning Rust. Everything is hard drives. Like I've got like in this Synology right here, I've got an SSD caching drive, and probably up in these two NASAs as well. I probably got caching drives, but everything else is hard drives. Everything else is hard drives. But here's the thing, right? Like, okay, we're there. That's good. If we go to dbtechreviews.com, you wouldn't know that that's loading on the server behind me, right? Like you just wouldn't. If you go to like Home Lab, Launchpad, that loaded on the server behind me, going through a reverse proxy somewhere else, not here, right? Like this had to go out to the internet, run through a proxy, come back through my ISP, hit that, and make that circle back. And that's how long it took. You would never know that this is on hard drives. You would never know that this isn't hosted on a third-party solution. Also, if you guys haven't checked out Home Lab Launchpad yet, it'd be really cool if you did. It's a new project that I've launched recently that I'm trying to promote. That is for people who are just trying to get into self-hosting, like DB Tech or DB Tech has become kind of an intermediate course, and this is not that, right? I've got a couple of videos out. If you haven't seen this yet, it'd be cool if you checked it out. Maybe subscribed. I'd really appreciate it. But anyway, the point is, right? Like all of my stuff runs on hard drives, and like even the media that streams here, I've got a friend that remotely accesses in another state. You would never have any idea that any of my stuff runs on hard drives. So, sorry, going back a little bit. It must have been when OMV did a major version. It's very possible. Coreyman Zero says I have a few of those mini PCs as home labs, and they're great. They're so good. Like I said, this ran everything for like months and months and months. It ran at like 65 watts. This is the TDP on this CPU is 65 watts. So it never ran over 65 watts, and it ran basically everything that I'm currently running, give or take. Some things have changed, some containers have changed, that sort of thing. But I never had any issues with running a mini PC as a home lab. In fact, that's going to be one of the next videos over on Home Lab Launchpad, is talking about different use cases for different types of hardware. Whether it's a Raspberry Pi, whether it's one of these guys, you guys are familiar with those, or a mini PC, or an old computer, an old laptop you've got just sitting around collecting dust. We're going to kind of weigh the pros and cons of those different bits of hardware. So that's the plan for an upcoming video there. Javaz says, I had 2 backups and you're paranoid. Then what am I? One 400 terabyte NAS, Mirido, another one. Whew. All with daily syncs. Holy crap, dude. That's impressive, dude. That's really impressive. I have a Lenovo Enterprise 3.8 terabyte NVMe. Just failed. Lenovo sending me a new one. That's good. This is on Nutanix hardware, but running Proxmox. The only thing keeping me from giving up on NextCloud is I've got my NextCloud on Proxmox cluster containers mounted with TrueNAS server for mirrored drives. Yeah. Look, here's the thing. If I had a good backup of my solution in the past, it's entirely possible that as I was learning, as I was going through that process initially, that I could have restored everything and been back up and running with my instance the way it was, but I didn't have those backups. And that was 100% on me for not having those backups. But again, it became an instance of realizing I didn't necessarily want all of my contacts, my images, my everything in one location with one point of failure. So I'm not worried about losing anything. The fact that I can just samba in to see the files gives me tons of confidence, dude, right? That's why when we were setting this up earlier, I wanted to set this up as a mapped volume rather than a Docker volume, because I like to go in and see those things as well. Like I understand that I can go in and I can take a look at where I can go to the mapped volume where that Docker volume resides. I understand that I can do that and I can back that up, but I still prefer to be, home Docker container name for where all of my stuff is. Collins, dude, what are you doing? Thank you for that. Uh, thank you so much for that, man. I super appreciate that. Um, Jason says also, thanks for all your videos. I've been home labbing for 4 months and you've been an incredible resource. Thank you. I appreciate that. I try, man. And look, I'm trying to make my content better and more approachable. Because I know for a long time I spoke really, really fast and I had a lot of assumptions about who my audience was. And that's kind of why I'm doing Home Lab Launchpad, is because I know that not everybody is intermediate or above when it comes to installing a lot of these containers. So Home Lab Launchpad is intended to be literally from step one. What is self-hosting and why should you care, right? And then taking a look at some of the like I said, the hardware options that you've got. I've got a video that I'm also working on in conjunction with that about some of the terms that you're going to hear a lot while self-hosting. Um, that just kind of conversationally explains what all of these different things means, so that you're not like, so the people that are coming into this don't feel like I'm speaking a different language to them. I want to have a video that explains like, hey, let's talk about what all these things are and how they kind of work together in conjunction and how all of these words may sound jumbled up, but once you understand foundationally how they apply to each other, then it'll make understanding future videos easier. So that's also something I started working on last night. I'm already screwing up my flow in the video that I released yesterday. I think it was. I was like, hey, the next video is going to be about hardware, but I think the next video is actually going to be about this terminology thing before we get to hardware, because I think it's important to understand the words that are coming out of my mouth before I say them. So I got to make an adjustment there. How much storage do you have? So technically, my big Synology, this one on the bottom that you can't really see, has 6 8 terabyte drives in it with a one drive failure, RAID 1, I guess. I don't know. I'm not good with remembering what all of those are. I could probably think about it or whatever. But so I've got 48 terabytes in there, but not all of. But it's only like 40 that's usable, and there's some caching. So call it 36 that's actually usable. I'm down to like 6 available though, and that's got me a little nervous. In the HL15, I've got two 10 terabyte drives with a one drive failure point. Um, this one I think has got two 12 terabyte drives with a single drive RAID, and then a couple of like 4 or 6 terabyte drives also that I had set up for my Synology cameras. I'm not running that solution anymore. And then there's another NAS right there in that rack that has kind of a jumble of drives. I don't remember what all is in there, but maybe 100 terabytes spread across multiple devices. We did succeed. We are up and running. Things are working. Um, the one thing that we haven't really talked about here, yeah, there's that activity. It's loading fine, right? Like it is, but then I also have to wonder. One of the big issues, of course, you can't see my desktop. Everything's loading fine for right now, right? Which is great. The one thing that I have to wonder though, because of previous runs with NextCloud, is that unless you've got, and I say that, unless you previously, if you didn't have cron jobs running about every 2 to 3 minutes, NextCloud would just start falling over itself, slowing down, chugging, not doing, it would just become unusably slow because cron jobs weren't constantly running in the back to keep things up and running. And I don't know if this has been fixed in that. That's been kind of one of those questions that's been floating around in the back of my head for a while. Cool, this is set up, and once I started wrapping my head around some of the stupidity that they've got in their installation process. And look, stupidity here is just my personal opinion. Again, I know a lot of people use it. It's whatever. But I have to wonder if I were to upload a bunch of files, pictures, documents, whatever, videos, whatever, would it then start slowing down, right? Would it then, like, I understand that while it's indexing things, it will probably slow down, but do I need to have constant cron jobs running on it to keep maintenance running on it automatically? I don't know. We haven't got that far, but the basic install was eventually successful. Amau05 says, that's a subject I'm interested in. Electricity isn't cheap where I live, so I'm looking for a home lab that won't suck up too much power. That's a legitimate thing to consider. Sorry, I'm just kind of looking around to see what I've got over here. So I've got this Trig Key S5 that is... This is an old model. They actually reached out. I've got another one of their devices that I need to review here soon. That's also capped at 65 watts, which I know you could get an N100 or an N200 or whatever that might be 15 watts. But there's always trade-offs, right? You got to find the balance between the number of cores you're getting, the number of PCI lanes you're getting, the amount of RAM you can handle, and the power consumption that you need. So there's always going to be a trade-off. There's always going to be a balancing act to that. So I hope you find what you're looking for. I genuinely do. Nontron is talking about Chromebook stuff. I haven't touched Chromebook in 5 years. I don't know anything about what they're doing now. I don't know if those services even work anymore. I have stated that repeatedly in the comment sections on all of those videos. Those videos are really, really old. I'm not supporting those videos anymore. I don't know if the developers who were supporting the script that I was using when I was supporting those videos are even supporting their scripts anymore. It was a long time ago. I don't know what's available anymore at this point. Any roadmaps to do an N8N tutorial, or maybe you already did one? I have messed around with N8N a bit, kind of off and on over the last year or two. Not a fan. Not a fan. And again, it's one of those things that I know a lot of people are a big fan of, just not me. There are other creators out there that do a really good job with talking about N8N. And that, in fact, some channels have made their entire channel about that process. And I'm never going to actually be able to compete with those creators. And I don't mean compete in a negative way. The information that they have available to them based on their experience with it is always going to far exceed my limited understanding of it, because I've only installed it a couple of times and I haven't enjoyed the process of trying to use it. So yeah. Monish says the answer is yes, it will crap out. That's awesome. Glad to know that that's still a thing. Michael says, love your home lab videos. Can you do a video on how to install NextCloud Talk along with high performance backend? Talk requires opening ports, and I don't like opening ports. I might consider doing that on a VPS or something that doesn't involve me potentially compromising my home lab or my home network. I don't know, maybe. It looks like NextCloud AIO thinks that only one service you're running, where did it go, as the installation is. Yeah, I don't understand that either. It doesn't make sense that, like, here's the thing is it's managing, this instance is managing all of these containers, right? I can look at the logs from here. Like, I can see everything that's going on here. But I can also do this in Portainer, right? I can also do this by just looking at the logs. I can get the information about what's running. I can do something like, Docker PS, and I can be like, oh, well, what is whiteboard doing? I can, do Docker logs F. Cool. Now I can do the same thing here in my terminal. that I can do here. I understand that it's just a matter of having a simple dashboard to do everything, but the install process to get AIO to work sucks. Um, I didn't enjoy that process. I didn't enjoy having to go through multiple pages of their documentation to realize, oh, no, I need to change my Docker run command because I am trying to use a reverse proxy so that I don't have to use their suggestion of just opening ports and pointing them directly to a container. I didn't enjoy any of that. So the cron job thing is kind of weird that it's needed. I don't need a cron job for any of the other 15 containers, right? Yeah, and that, dude, exactly that. Here's what I can say though. I found a workaround for that sort of that also. So here's what you do, right? You set up something like Uptime Kuma, and you're probably using some sort of a monitoring software anyway, right? It's something to let you know if a service goes down. What you do is you find the cron job or the cron.php file for your NextCloud instance. If you go directly to NextCloud or mysite whatever /config /cron.php or whatever it is, I actually think that's probably accurate. You can access that. Let me actually see. So like config /cron.php. No. All right. I don't know where it is, but now I'm curious. Let's see. This is on port 11. This is Apache whiteboard notify NextCloud AIO. That's on port 9000. That's interesting. Let's take a look in here real quick, right? We're going to exit out of this. We're going to do docker exec -it on there, and then we'll do sh ls cd config. It is config.php. Interesting. That should have worked. Let's just do a cat config.php, right? So this is your config. Your config.php file. Or no, that's not what I wanted. Damn it! Maybe it was a cron file. Maybe that's what I was looking for. Maybe I said config and I meant cron. Oops. Oh, cron.php. Okay. So then it's just cron.php. Let's remove this. Right. So if you set up something like Uptime Kuma to just hit this like every 5 minutes to check for the uptime or the status update of whether or not that service is up and running, this will run the cron. In theory, that's how I used to do it anyway, to keep my crons running without having to get in here into all of this and set up crons this way. I gamed the system a little bit and got my uptime monitoring and my cron jobs running by one single command. So that's how I did it. Where I live, they don't. Oh, so it's Jason Heffer donated $10. Said again, thanks for the vids. I'll say to others. Getting started, AI is your friend to fill in the gaps when you run into issues. I agree with that. I used it to create a Skylight calendar app for yeah. So I kind of mentioned that earlier. AI right now is a blessing and a curse, right? It's really good for filling in knowledge gaps if you know how to prompt it correctly and have the ability to take the information that it's given, that it's given back to you as a result, and verify it. It's important to do the verification step when it gives you an answer. You want to make sure that you understand what it's saying, and if you don't understand it, go research that topic a little bit more so that you do understand it. So it's important to use AI with the understanding that you have to validate what the information that it's giving back. But it can absolutely be super, super helpful in filling in those knowledge gaps if you take the time to do the due diligence to verify that everything is correct. Hey, look, do that. Let's see. This was a very productive stream for us, says Collins. You got NextCloud working. I got the NUC 14 Pro Plus running as new PVE1 node. That's awesome. So my entire home lab is now running on some sort of mini PC. That's amazing. Can we try cfile, uncloud, or NextCloud for which is best? My problem with best is everybody's best is going to be different. My solution What I've got back here is best for me, but it's not going to be best for James Collins. It's not going to be best for Manuel Uribe. Uribe, I apologize. It's not going to be best for Manuel, right? Everybody's best is going to be what works best for them. When I see videos that are like, this is the best thing that you can do for your home lab, cool. Under those exact specific circumstances, you might be right, but only if I've exactly mirrored your setup is it the best solution for this thing. So I don't like it when people are like, this is the best thing, the best service, the best wife who brings me tea. Best is always relative based on the circumstances, is what I'm getting at here. Oh, that's good. Should put some lemon in that. So good. Join the Discord and drop a link to your project. Yeah, absolutely, Jason. Please do that. You're on the YouTube, so the link to Discord should be in the video description. Cool. You're going to do that. That's outstanding. Thank you, Collins, for sharing that. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you guys for doing that. Yeah, best is suggestive, but I think giving C-File a try wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe that's next week's live stream, right? Maybe that's what we do next week, is we spin up C-File, and we see what C-File is all about. I feel like we've already done that though, not on a live stream. Hold on. I'm not saying we won't do it again. C-File. Whew. Yeah, the last time we looked at C-File was July 13th of 2020. Things have changed in the last 5 years. So yeah, we'll do that, right? Cool. All right. Let's close that. Yeah. So yeah, no, maybe next week we will take a look at C-File and kind of see how that goes. Because again, it's been 5 years, and we've definitely needed some of my content to be updated, because it's been a long time. I've been at this for apparently more than 5 years now, which blows my mind. But let's see. The King Koopa says, I was just comparing C-File and OwnCloud docs during the stream. Yeah, we may, like I said, we'll take a look at that. Those videos are misleading. They should say, this is the best thing I ever did for my home lab. Yeah, 100%. Is Home Lab Launchpad going to have a sub-channel on Discord or a new Discord? I don't know. That's a really good question that I had only moderately considered. I don't know. I'm going to have to kick that around a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't have an objection. I wouldn't have an objection to maybe adding a separate channel to the Discord. I don't think I want to start a new Discord. I have a hard enough time keeping on top of the things I'm already keeping on top of. But I think adding a separate channel on that Discord would be all right. I don't think I've got a problem doing that. I'll have to work on that a little bit later, I think. Okay, that's all that. Sorry, I'm just making sure I haven't missed anything else over here. I get a lot of notifications lately for some reason. So yeah, we'll definitely consider doing some of that. Collins is like, let's chat about that. I agree. We'll do that. We'll do that offline, so to speak. But yeah, like I'm really happy with how with how Home Lab Launchpad has gone. I actually need to. I don't know if you guys saw. I hope you saw. No, that was weird muscle memory. Self-host. Like if you take a look, like on the recent. On the most recent, the one from just a couple of yesterday, I guess, Ethan was awesome. Oh, you can't see that. Ethan was awesome and featured what I'm doing there, which I super appreciate. I love that he does all of this, like in the community stuff. YouTuber DB Tech announced he's launching a new project called Home Lab Launchpad, a series of guides geared towards new self-hosters, which I super appreciate. Interesting. And then there was something else later on. I feel like I actually need to go through and look at some of this. I've been really busy lately, um, but I feel like it was farther down. Pangolin. Interesting. They changed. They changed. I have to take a look at that. Just open that over there. Um, these guys have been crazy busy with what they're doing. Um, wow. To do feedback. Yeah, community content. Again, featuring that, which I super appreciate. And look, that's just stroking my own ego there. But it's neat to have that. And he sent a ton of traffic to the website here, which I'm super thankful for. Which encouraged me to then add these two links right here because I hadn't done that yet. If you want to get notified of when new content goes live here on this site, you can subscribe if you want to do that. I've noticed a lot of people are using uh, very specific email addresses, which I encourage. That tells them who is selling their data. I encourage that kind of behavior. But yeah, so I'm working on this and the main channel, and I've been trying to do more stuff for my mental and physical health. I bought a treadmill. I guess they're calling them walking pads now. Bought one of those recently that I've got set up in there so that when I'm waking up in the morning, I get up, I put my shoes on, I do 15 to 20 minutes on the treadmill while I'm kind of still waking up and catching up on my YouTube content consumption, that sort of thing. I'll pick a 15 to 20 minute video and just walk while I'm watching that. So I'm getting at least a few thousand extra steps every day now. That's been going well. And I'm already noticing some improvements in my flexibility and my just overall stuff working better, which is great. I really, really dig that. Um, but yeah, just been busy lately, and so I need to spend some more time taking a look through this week's newsletter. I guess is what I was getting at. Um, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, but I think, man, I don't know. You guys got anything else? We got through this. We got through this nonsense, um, which I'm thankful for. Oh yeah, because that's not found. That's fine. You know what? Let's do something here. I want to see. This is on a 10 gig connection, right? This container is connected on a 10 gig connection. Nelson says hi blessings, love your channel. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Let's do this. Let's go to files. Can we do? Is it smart enough? I wonder. You have talent to explain. I appreciate your time. Well, I appreciate that recognition. It's taken me a long time and a lot of frustration with myself to do better. And it's not me even trying to be mean to myself. It's just it's taken me a long time to do better. Let's see, man. Personal files. I tell you what. Let's do this. Let me find. Looking over here. Launchpad, self-hosting. Me. All right, cool. So, we still got the right screen up. It's videos. Man, I don't know where this is going to go though. I guess we've got videos here. So let's create a new folder. Oh, you know what? I can just upload a folder, right? So let me. You know what? As I have said for so very long, let's go big or go home, right? I'm going to grab this. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say, oh, no, I'm going to go new. I'm going to upload a folder. I'm going to go here. I'm going to sort by date. Oh, that was for this. We're going to grab this, right? That's got a couple of things in it. We're going to upload that folder. Do you want to upload 142 files to this site? You're damn right I do. Let's see. All right. 2 minutes left. At 0.1 megabytes per second. Ooh, check your connection. That's interesting. Wow. Outstanding. Just failing across the board. Right? Let's see what it says over here. Does it give us anything? When was this? This is 06? That was a long time ago, so it wasn't that. Uh, I am actually really, really happy that we did that. Cool. Reconnect. Show outline. That doesn't tell me anything. This operation is forbidden. Neat. Uh, can we delete this folder then? That's hilarious. Man, my eye's twitching. That's really weird. Delete folder. Delete folder. Action failed. Neat. Okay, this is interesting. Oh, I don't have authorization to view this page. Huh. That's fun. Uh, I wonder if the security in my reverse proxy, because I hit it so hard so fast, I wonder if it banned me. That's hilarious. Um, wow. All right. Let's do this. Let's exit out of here. Let's do that. Oh, you know what? I can't, because I did it that way. Right, we're here. Let's do that. You've been blocked by your own service, right? Look, it very well could be a rate limiter on my reverse proxy, which I hope it is, because that's kind of why I've got it there. But it tells me if somebody tries to DDoS me, man, it's going to kick them out. It probably banned the IP address, although that makes me wonder. Oops. Yep, it banned my IP address. That's hilarious. I can't even access my own. It was denied. You don't have authorization to view this page. I'm gonna have to go into my firewall and whitelist myself. I thought I already had. This is 100% my reverse proxy working overtime, and I think by default I've got a 10-minute cooldown on it. Honestly, I'm thrilled. That makes me really, really happy, if I'm being completely honest, because it tells me that my security is working. Or somebody hacked me and blew it up and they locked me out. Could be either one of those. I pwned to myself, congrats, you deserve a medal, right? That's hilarious. I can't believe that. I'm going to fix that offline. I'm not going to do firewall work publicly. That's a bad idea. This is that, because I was going to come in here and just restart some stuff, uh, but I'm honestly, I'm genuinely happy that that my reverse proxy did what it said it was going to do. I just need to go in and whitelist myself in the firewall, which I thought I had done, but apparently not. So I got to dig through that and see what happens. See how I can fix that. But I guess thank you, Sven, for the medal. Appreciate you. That is really funny. That's great. I don't know what to say to that. I think that's a good place to wrap this up, though. Thank you guys for hanging out, for cheering me on, for getting me through this. We did this as a team, and I really do appreciate that and all of your support. Like I said earlier, if you haven't checked out Home Lab Launchpad, it'd mean the world to me if you did. It's just homelablaunchpad.com. We'll get you there. So it's not a bug, it's a feature, right? Yeah. No, it did what it did what I wanted it to do. It's the first time I've done that to myself. I kind of wish I'd been running through a VPN though. Anyway, it is what it is. I'll get it sorted. It'll be fine. I just got to go see which firewall rule to manipulate there. So thank you guys again for hanging out with me. We've been at this for just over 2 hours, and I think that's a really good starting or stopping point. Ronaldo, thank you for the $5 donation. That really does mean a lot. I appreciate your support. So again, thank you guys for hanging out, whether it's been the last 5 minutes or the last 2 hours. Really appreciate your ongoing support for my nonsense. So I think I apologize. I bumped that. I smacked the mic with my hand there. I suck. I think that means it's a good time to go. So thank you again. I'll talk to you again here real soon. More content coming on both channels this week. So hopefully you'll check that out. But have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves. I'll talk to you soon.